The next session is Streaming India. Mobile allows young Indians to watch news on the go. Will this influence the news broadcast business in any way? I would now like to invite Mr. Ashok Venkatramani, former CEO, ABP News Network, Mr. B.V. Rao, editor of Press Post, and Ms. Suparna Singh, Strategy NDTV Group, to kindly join us on stage. This session will be moderated by Ms. Shweta Mulki, AFAX.
Am I audible? Am I audible? All right. Okay. So, morning everyone. As you know, this session in particular is about news. And now we've seen concepts like breaking news, live telecasts, round-the-clock bulletins, and star anchors made popular by the force that is television news. And today, as more and more of our youth is watching news on the go, will this digital disruption in any way hamper or impact television news as we know it? Now, in this session, we aim to address who is watching what where, how digital news is perceived vis-a-vis television news, and also the part where we say, show me the money, the most important part. Let's move on to our expert panelists right away. Ashok, I'd like to start with you. What are your initial thoughts on just that impertinent question that we put out right now?
I just made some notes. I just thought I'll just share with you. In my view, I think there are some 4 or 5 key trends which are challenging traditional businesses like television news or even print for that matter. And these are not in any order of importance. The first one is, the population. Half the country is less than, 25 years of age.
Yeah.
And if you project the birth rate and the death rates, this situation is not going to change for the next 20 years, which means at least in my living lifetime, in a working life, this is reality. Yeah. So that's the first point we must recognize, that the audience is significant. And if you increase it to 35 years, as somebody was mentioning, the figure actually goes up to 65% of the audience is young. Okay, that's India. Second is that this audience is not consuming news through traditional medium. In fact, if you see TV viewing habits in this audience, over the last couple of years, it's actually come down by half. And almost entirely, their appetite for news is not vetted by traditional publishing mediums like television or even newspaper for that matter. So that's the second trend. The third is that video consumption on the go is gone up sharply. I think Raghav shared the numbers, so I'm just giving the top lines, which is, over the next couple of years, this figure is expected to hit close to 75%. 75% of the people, when they are watching internet, they're consuming, it through videos. So video is going to be a huge thing for the future. The fourth one is, the so-called you call it pillars or building blocks for growth of internet in India are really smartphones, broadband infrastructure, both width of the infrastructure as well as the cost of infrastructure, which is constantly coming down, video and social media use. So and whether you call it pillars or whether you call it building blocks, they're all in the right place and they're all like zooming, and hence doesn't augur very well for traditional publishers. And the last one is really, the state of our country. And if you really look at some very key indicators which affect digital businesses, there is a huge headroom for growth. So, for example, urbanization is only 30%, active internet users is 27%, active social media users is 10%, mobile users is 46%, but active mobile users through social media is only 8%. So the headroom for these numbers to grow is huge. And hence, to me, these are 5 sort of trends which are really, challenging traditional business, especially television. Now, I think I'm not getting into things like specific challenges of television business, because I'm presuming that
we will
be getting into to questions and so on.
Yes.
But I think a lot of traditional publishing businesses see the writing on the wall. I don't think they have the clue about the full picture, So I think very nicely put by the previous speaker about 5 axes. So they don't know, they may have some idea about 1 axis, 2 axis, 3 axis. They don't have a view of all the axes. They certainly don't have the milestones which they want to reach on each of these axes. So right now all of us are, throwing up our hands and legs, trying to figure our way out. But we do know that the writing is on the wall and that's the direction we need to move in.
Right. So Parna, your initial thoughts on this? We'll discuss that in detail about some of the pillars that you mentioned, but I just wanted a quick initial thought.
Sure, I'll try and keep it quick. NDTV last year streamed 2.5 billion minutes of video. Just think of that number, 2.5 billion, right? And this was largely English content. Because we're NDTV, video is very much in our DNA. But one of the things that we've been very clear on, and you spoke about this in terms of how traditional media houses are adapting, and we were very quick to realize that our online stuff, digital video, digital content, could not be television material rehashed and put online. It just doesn't work. The audience that is coming to our digital platforms demands a quicker, shorter, snappier video, and so we're focused very heavily on that. To the extent that despite being a traditional broadcast company, we now create video specially for mobile phones in our most popular genres, whether it is gadgets or cars and bikes, etc. We're shooting and creating vignettes specially for phones. And I think that's a good indication when we talk about video in general, because the numbers are staggering, right? Like 2017. 72% of internet data will be devoted to video, will be consumed by video. That number goes up to 90% just a year later. So yes, everybody talks about video, but what kind of video? To which my assertions are short form video. We have something called NDTV News Beeps, which breaks every big story into 3 quick points. So one is short form, and the second is vernacular. It just has to be vernacular growth. I'll end quickly by saying that while all that is proving to be true, at least from my experience, the money is much slower to come in. So monetization is a real challenge. And I think what publishers and content creators have to factor in is, can you move in now and build up a huge user base and park yourself there, understand the audience, but do you have the affordability, for advertisers to take their time to come on board? And that's where I would hope that many of you in the audience, media planners, agencies, etc., will evangelize that in some way.
Right. That's a call for media planners out there. Venkat, your thoughts?
Yeah, if the question is, will TV as we know be impacted? Yes, very clearly, and I think it's already, you're seeing that happening already. But will TV itself be impacted? I think there's some more time that TV will hold out, for the simple reason that though we are talking technology, all this is about technology, and digital is nothing if it is not technology. Digital still has a huge technology problem to solve to beat TV, which is concurrence. Digital still cannot handle above a certain maximum of concurrence. Whereas the only model you have right now for video viewing, which can happen 2 million concurrence at the same time, or maybe even 60 million, like for a, let's say, any sporting event.
Right.
That's not possible in digital. Your internet will crash. Not just your server, internet will crash. So I think there is that huge problem for technology, for digital to cross before it actually challenges TV in a very big way. But formats will have to change. The content offering in TV will have to change, and it's already changing.
Yes, starting with the plain assumption that data is going to get cheaper and faster. Eventually, we will see that happening. So once that happens, TV as we know it doesn't cease to be that way. So, but before we go into the money part of it, we want to know what kind of audiences are coming in right now to watch digital news. We know it's the young. We know it's the millennials, not the older ones. The wiser ones are on television apparently, as we came to know. But the nature of the audience watching online news, we've had our discussions, and is there a very specific trend that you can see? Are there any surprises, if at all? Ashok, you want to?
See, one of the things which we are not doing in television, and I think that is where it is becoming a bit of an Achilles heel for us in television, is that we do not profile our audiences. We just sort of broadcast it and hope that X number of people see it, because television is still bought in terms of eyeballs. So CPRP, so there's so many people watch it for so many minutes, so you get business. That is changing the moment you hit digital, because in digital, technology allows you to actually profile who's actually watching you.
Correct.
And today you will find increasingly companies providing those kind of technology wherein you can actually sit and identify who exactly has watched you. However, and one of the reasons why the costs are not, we are not getting value in the digital space is because as sellers of that eyeballs, we are still in that frame of mind that we are selling eyeballs, which is why everybody keeps saying so many million page views, but nobody talks about who the hell watched that page views. Was it in India, or was it in Fiji, or was it in Canada? So a buyer is not able to assess, and on the negotiating table, when you go for selling these eyeballs, if you have a very seasoned buyer, let's say a very evolved buyer who has invested significant amounts in understanding the audience profile, he's able to bargain and get a better deal. I think what needs to be done as digital companies, especially in the news space, evolve, is that they start profiling their audiences and they start looking at what kind of audiences are actually coming in, watching my channel, and for what reason. The other thing, this is something which I love giving this example. Who's the hero? Is the hero the news, or is the hero someone else? Now,
that's the part about perception that we were talking about.
You look at, if I ask this question to any one of you, saying, give me 10 names, the print media, 10 famous print media, we all have 7 or 8. If I ask the same question, give me 10 names, great journalists in the television, maybe we will muster 4 or 5. If I ask, give me 10 names in the digital space, great journalists in the digital space, we won't come up with even one, because everybody is a journalist here. So who's the hero? The hero is then the news itself. The link between the news and the brand, the channel brand, or whether it's Times of India, NDTV, or whatever, is tenuous, very, very tenuous, and precious little is being done to build that linkage. With the result, ability to monetize is virtually not there. You don't have the profile, you don't have the brand linkage, and the only hero is the news. The news could come from anywhere. Who remembers who broke the news? Or, where did I read that article, or who wrote that article? All I know is that somebody broke that news, I read that article, I forwarded it to 20 people on WhatsApp, and it has become viral, and it's now become news. So I think because of these allied spaces not really evolving as eyeballs and page views keep going up, we're not able to monetize, and hence,
True, but as you say that there is data. So what is stopping people who are creating that news to use that data? Is there an ethos in news that stops them from using data as consumer data and then not creating news following that? Is that the reason, Venkat, you have a...
We're looking at data all the time. In fact, that's one of the things that can distract the content developer, right? You're
so
looking
are there
at
any conflicts because of that, though?
Well, yeah. You sure have. You sure have to make decisions based on how the traffic is driving at that moment. You have to get onto a trend and make the most of it. Otherwise,
it's not used on the scale as television, right? Television
No,
has its currency very well set.
no, I think
so
we
is
use
that
it.
is that an issue? That's
No,
stopping?
we see television, at least till so far, it's still weekly TRPs, or have we come down to daily?
No,
It's still
weekly,
right?
yes.
So here we are at every second. I think Suparna and I would be looking at a chart all the time. We are looking at concurrence. We are looking at what story is performing, what is not performing, and then how Google Trends is changing, so that you have to get onto the trend at that moment. There's no trend 1 hour after the event is over. So digital, I used to think, I came from print to TV. I thought TV is relentless. You just don't stop working. And then digital is another thing altogether, right? It's worse than television. So you can so easily get swayed by the trend of the moment. And within that, if you do not have a brand identity which outlives that trend of the moment, then you have a problem.
Right.
So that's what he is referring to.
Yeah.
You just can't be... You have to deliver to the trend of the moment, but you have to have a
You have to
larger
have the
purpose.
bigger picture
bigger.
in mind. Yeah. Suparna, is that how?
Sorry, I'm interrupting,
Sure.
but I just wanted to make this point. I think it's going to provoke these two, but I will still make the point.
Please go ahead.
You know, and this is to do with the mindset of an editor. Most editors have come from a print background, print, television, and then digital, where they operate with that mindset that the consumer doesn't know what is the news. I am going to tell the consumer what news they want to read tomorrow morning. That's the mindset.
True.
Cut to a digital forum where they are actually forced to look at what news is trending and then actually put news which are in line with the trend. That's the other extreme. I find that most editors, most people who are at the helm in most digital platforms, they are still operating in that old mindset, and they are in their minds they are constantly struggling to make that change. I'm not even for a minute advocating whether that is right or this is right. I will leave that to people to judge. But I can see that dilemma in their minds, and hence they often are tempted to put something which is not trending, but in their gut they feel that this is the right news to put. So I think a lot of, and that issue is holding them back from looking at data to see what is the right data, what is the millennial watching, what is the millennial interested in, is that news enough, is that newsy enough. This dilemma. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yes, but we will also address what is the millennial watching, because that but before we do that, Suparna, you wanted to talk about the editor's dilemma.
I just wanted to counter that because, like Venkat said, we watch data all the time. We are sold on the basis of our data. Our advertising rates are on the basis of our data. And by data, I don't mean how many million uniques or page views. It is a demographic of our user. So we're tracking that data all the time. It allows us to set premium rates. We've just relaunched our NDTV app, which is so far, it was a fairly established app, and we took a big risk in relaunching it last week. And we've launched it with a premium version, which is ad-free. And I'm actually quite surprised by how many takers there are for that. So we constantly watch stuff like this. On the content side, of course, we track and see, what story is working, and, the details that you get show you where that audience is coming from. Is it from America? Is it from the UK? Is it from Bangalore? So we track that all the time. So I don't think it's correct to say that we don't track it. At the same time, if you're and this is where experience comes in and your brand credibility comes in, just because Kareena Kapoor's child's name is trending, NDTV.com is not going to do 25 stories around it, right? And many other websites did in the guise of news, and that's fine. It's just not something we will do. So I think that it's not that hard to figure out what news is really. And the other point, I think, in answer to what you said, is that unlike television, where your news is restricted to a half-hour bulletin or a 1-hour bulletin, online you can have infinite amounts of material placed wherever you want. So in a way, it is so much more democratic. And then it is up to the user, the reader, to you to decide what is the news that you want to consume. But ultimately there are editors whose job is to pick and choose. And there are brands that will do wardrobe malfunction photographs in the name of news and put it in the top scroll of a news site. There are some brands that just won't.
Yes. We will always have players who will be that part which will not go into kind of news that doesn't go with their ethics.
With their brand. Yeah.
With their brand.
Yeah.
But we are talking at, looking at the bigger picture, we're looking at the industry. So we were addressing credibility earlier. When we talk of online and we talk of perception, do you think that when you want to go for in-depth analysis, people switch on to television even today? Do they do that? And we are not addressing text. We are looking at video right now. Text is a different thing. But if you just look at video, watching it.
That's an interesting question because see, first post, our DNA we say is that we are breaking opinions website.
True. We were talking
So,
about, if we talk about brands singularly, we know that there are certain brands which
correct. No. So what I'm saying is that I think the trend has become, earlier the newspaper was there and all your debates used to be in edit page of the newspaper once in a day.
Yeah.
Right? And you never read those debates anyway. Then TV came along and then it started happening ad nauseum, every day, 3 hours on prime
It's a daily
time.
debate, right?
So the newspaper debates got killed anyway, news got killed anyway for the next day morning. So now digital has come in and doing all those debates right through the day.
But do you have any takers for that?
Yes.
Will somebody, as an overall trend?
As an overall trend, of course I am. I think there is, see, the fact that a website like First Post, which should not even be ideally ranking in the top 5 or 6 websites, digital news websites, we rank there only because we add a value proposition to the news. We add opinion.
That is true of many brands, but it still is not translating to the money part. If that is true, if people are really, if the young really want to go and watch analysis online, and there are numbers that you can show, even certain brands can show probably, why is the simple question, show me the money.
It's a growing phase. It's a changeover phase, no?
But the curve has already begun a while ago. There's still time that we've seen, and
so why
expected it to.
So why would then Arnav Goswami need to go on to Twitter? As aggressively as he went when he was still in Times
But
now.
wouldn't he also be starting a television channel?
Yeah, he is, but he's already started doing that on digital.
True.
So
he recognizes the potential of digital.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It is the changeover phase. And that's what I said. See, the technology still has to be in a scale that what he can do on a television news show, which has reached so many million at the same time, is still not possible on digital. So till that time, that's still a barrier in technology, in digital. So once that is broken, I don't know, suddenly you have Facebook Live, which is changing stuff, right?
So these are your competitors. You have Facebook, you have Twitter, you have YouTube, you have user videos as your competitors. Yeah. So Ashok, you've also spearheaded ABN earlier, and you would have seen, I know you've mentioned that a lot of this traffic comes back to the home site, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of share that goes out to social, right?
Yeah, actually, when we did it, we had no idea. We just took a punt, and the punt worked, which is very early on we quoted Facebook, we quoted YouTube, we got into an arrangement with them, and we started putting news out there. I think the reason why also we did that was that we realized very quickly that breaking news is no longer a TV domain, is in the TV's domain. It's gone out of TV domain. The earlier we realize it, the better it is. Breaking news now breaks on social media, and we need to recognize that. That's one reason we thought, and so we were in a situation where we were wanting to redefine who we are and how we need to operate. So we said, okay, let's code social media in a big way. Second reason why we did that was we recognized also that videos are going to be, big. And I, for one, was acutely conscious of wanting to link the brand name with the news and not make the news as the only hero. We had a philosophy that we don't promote anchors. The brand and the news should be the hero and not the anchor, which is why we don't build the brand around the anchors as face. We were acutely aware of that, and hence we saw an opportunity by which if we put out short videos on social media, which is where anyway news is breaking, and the way the video is constructed is very similar to the way TV is, so there's a logo at the corner and so on, at least you know that you are associated with that particular news, and if it multiplies real fast, much faster than than television, and the youth is anyway going to watch that, chances are that you will end up building your brand in that with that millennials and in that space using the social media. So that was thinking. It actually started off more as a marketing act of how do I build my future consumers, but then evolved and finally actually became a way of life for the entire digital business.
But then the news itself would be of a different nature overall, right?
Yeah,
it
actually,
can't be for all sorts of.
Yeah, you're right.
items.
So those are lessons learnt, and obviously initial days it was being done by the same TV guys. So they came with their TV mindset, and I'm the first one to admit that those were mistakes. You very rightly said that the video has to be very, very customized for depending on what the platform is. Whereas initially it was just cut, paste, and put kind of thing.
Yeah, the shoveling of news.
That's
one
right.
point of time.
The other huge learning.
But if I may just interrupt there, how much percentage is only digital, really? If you look at the industry, I mean, the shoveling might have stopped a bit, where the cut pasting must have stopped a bit. But how much of it is purely digital, just created for online? I know the brands that are sitting here are creating videos purely for online.
Yeah, no, I think there are no common answers. My own view is that somebody like NDTV is way advanced in that. Yeah. I think they are also very advanced. ABP is trying to go there, but still quite some way. I also wanted to put out one collateral damage to this whole quoting on the social media thing is fake news. Yes, because there is no control, we found that the hell of a lot of fake news coming using our picture grab and putting news. We have nothing to do with that news. And
so there are people out there sitting, making videos, editing it, and putting your brand.
Oh yes.
Yes, because that question, one would think, in video, is it possible to fake news? Text is possible, but in video, is it possible? And you're saying that you see that?
Yeah. Very much possible. They cut, it is all, cutting the relevant portion, adding to something else, or stealing your video grab. And just a picture grab, and then there is a news cut out to say, and which we have nothing to do with that, the news clip which is attached to the video grab, but made to sound as if that anchor is actually read out that bit of news. So that it became a huge issue in terms of, it's still an issue. So I think.
So all that goes into the credibility factor, right? That must be one of the big things that's stopping advertisers. What do you think is not getting the money in? Because we know that TV still has a lion's share in advertising, and digital is somewhere it is in single digits, yes, we can put it that way. But what is it in the mind of the advertiser that they're not just digging deep into their pockets?
I think it's a limit of imagination, really, and acceptance of the fact that the audience has moved. It's not that there isn't money. We're a digital content company which is profitable, which is very, very rare, especially in India, and we've always been profitable. So it's not that there isn't money to be made. It's just that the share, as you said, is very disproportionate to the size of the audience. Mm-hmm. And there's two things to that. For us, as I'm sure for Venkat and for you, our audience has moved so quickly away from desktops onto mobiles. And what we constantly hear from agencies and from corporates is that, I want that real estate. The size of my site capture, my ad on a website, that's what I want. And the screen of a phone is too small. Well, tough luck, buddy, because that's where people are. So you have to be creative and figure out. So we have a team in-house that works with corporates and says, for mobile advertising, this is how we can help you design your creatives. Right. Similarly, hopefully, agencies will work with corporates on that, because if not, you're just not reaching where the audience is moving at lightning speed. It is just going so fast away from desktops. And just really quickly to answer your other points you said earlier about Facebook and YouTube and stuff, how do they compete with us? And actually, well, we don't see them as competition. They are another platform for disseminating our audience. And, initially it was a little bit tricky, but once you establish threshold rates through conversations with YouTube and say, we can't do it for lower than this, and they also want premium publishers, obviously. Facebook is a great way for reaching a different audience, younger people,
Facebook Live, we found, works phenomenally for that. And the interesting thing there is because of the nature of it, because people like to feel that they're witnessing something as it is happening, they will actually watch the entire 60-minute interview on Facebook Live. But later, when it's encoded, they will watch it only if it's broken up into short 2-minute clips. So it's basically tracking all that and monitoring your audience's habits. And as far as it comes to, to revenue, the change will come.
But Facebook cannot be it is still competition in one way because it may be good for the brand, but you have user-generated videos of things that are happening somewhere in some city. At that time, the newsroom, the television newsroom or the digital newsroom have stiff competition when videos are put out there, don't they?
YouTube and Facebook are becoming the new cable operator for digital.
So you see it as a distribution opportunity.
They're the cable operators, and we'll have to spend a lot of money down the road. I think publications are aware of that. And publications are wondering how to kind of preempt that. So maybe that's one reason why Facebook has come up with sponsored. They've opened that up now. They also realize that it can't be a one-way street for too long. And in that sense, YouTube is a much better partner for publications. But I think, you're asking of revenues. Revenues is, of course, is a big problem right now, and she's lucky, she's profit making. We're just about getting there. But the thing is that the viewer has changed, the reader has changed, he's moved. But I think the advertiser, and more importantly, the advertising agencies have still not changed their mindset. Right? And it has to happen. Sooner or later, it has to happen. This is all position taking. In terms of who's building what brand, from the way I see it, you can see a distinct difference between the way Times of India does its online, which is...
True, but does the audience really recognize that? They want to go to the site that has got them
the advertiser and the advertising agencies will recognize that. That is when they will go to the right people. Like as I said, Times of India uses it as an extension of its print, whereas NDTV is trying to create a kind of a product all its own on digital. It's a completely different identity they are creating. Right?
But how long do you see that mindset changing, at least if you're going to say agencies?
Tough to say, but I think it will happen very quickly. See, the challenge is not about all this. The challenge for digital revenue making is that there are too many of us. Earlier you used to have maybe, what was the competition? 2 newspapers in the city, 2 channels or 5 channels across the country. Now you have, I'm competing with Washington Post and New York Times, suddenly everything, the entire world, and not just publications. When it comes to the mobile and attention time span I'm competing with Myntra and Flipkart and everything. So
and that time is going to that's going to get even more fragmented.
It's going to get even more worse. That is why I think for a Times of India, which may be a 3,000 crore company right now in print, let's say 5 years from now, there's no print. Print disappears and Times of India is just an online news publication. Forget about the rest of India.com, just Times of India. Do you see TimesOfIndia.com becoming a 3,000 crore company in revenues? Right? I still have my doubts about that. And that is the challenge for digital.
So then is it about being an ambidextrous organization? And is that even a possibility where digital and your traditional way of putting news exists and coexist? Is it even possible in terms of where the money is, when money comes in?
Yeah, that's what IndiaTimes.com is. Right? So they
have
transaction in it.
Yes, that is again a big a brand that is established. But we are talking video and television. In that sense, is it possible for it to coexist at all? This would be the last thought. Ashok, you want to...
I personally don't think the problem is with the brands or the agencies. I think it is with the publishers. I think they are doing as yet precious little to really figure out what is going to be their monetization model. See, in the news space, the monetization model can only be on 2 or 3 things. Either, your brand is very strong. Call it credibility, which is what they have been able to build to some extent in the digital space, and hence they are getting the money. Or it could be real, unique news, which is not available, or which is not, given in a manner or in a format. Now, if we say that television news is commoditized, this is even more commoditized. Or the third thing is profile. You profile your audience and you're selling some unique profile which is not available so easily, and hence a brand is willing to pay a premium and give you the money. If as digital publishers or digital sites, if we are not doing enough in any of these three, one or more of these three, the buyer will always treat you as a commodity, and hence he will charge you for commodity. He will play for click. He will say, you put it, if somebody clicks, I will give you money. Technology enables him to do that. We are not able to, as publishers, if we are not able to build ourselves in our monetization model one or more of these, we cannot command a premium. And if we cannot command a premium, we can keep lamenting saying there is eyeballs but there is no money to be made. Well, how will the money come? Why will any brand give you the money? I think if seriously digital companies have to get their act right, they need to build a monetization model based on some philosophy and invest in it. You tell me how many of the digital brands are actually investing in classical image and credibility of brand building by either building a digital anchor or by building some uniqueness to the way they present their story. Yes. Otherwise, you open a site, you hire the master, they all look the same. You won't even know who's
that's
written
the question
it.
I would like to put out to the audience. You have your cards ready with you. How many digital, are there, let me put it in a very simple way, are there any digital brands that you recognize today vis-a-vis newspaper and television? Is there a single digital brand or a news person that you recognize as of now? Well, yeah. Yeah. No, so the reds are going slightly higher up. Maybe I'll throw one more. You think that digital will impact television in viewership in the next 5 years? More larger question. That's a lot of greens. Do you think digital will impact revenue of television going forward in the next 5 years? Well, it's an optimistic audience, I must say.
Yeah, but you didn't ask digital news.
Well, since the panel is discussing digital news,
I want to know how many of you think digital news is going to take away big chunk of monies from
television. Yes. Yeah, a little more of the reds coming up, but then it was the same thing. All right, thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much once again for a fascinating session. May I request Ms. Shweta Mulki to kindly do the honors. Thank you once again. Thank you so much.